Welcome, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about the Scorpio New Moon that will be taking place November 1st at 10:29 a.m. Pacific. If you are new to me, my name is Dawn Elle Davis, and I am a channel, a healer, and a transformational mentor that specializes in helping ambitious women heal forward to become their future self now so they can achieve their next level of success in love or money. So I'm here today, and I love to look at the energetics. I do a soul cast every month, and I come in and the new moon and full moon and do these little reports. And so I always post them on my Patreon. So if you want to support me, you can come over to Patreon and become a member. They get the information first. Otherwise, it'll be on YouTube. But I want to go through, and where I like to begin with these new moons is through a little channeling. So I'm going to channel first, and then I'll go into the specific themes and aspects that will support you. But I want you to think about and just get in the energetics of your power today. When you were listening to this, when you were thinking about this, Scorpio has so much to do with your power, your passion, your desires, your ability to transform your life. And it's watery, and it's, ruled by Pluto and used to be ruled by Mars as well. So it's a very kind of intense energy. It wants to help change your life. And so I want you to think about right now, just from a metaphorical perspective, where might you be experiencing some death, some rebirth, some composting, some, decay that, you can compost, I should say. Where's the decay? Because if food decays or something decays, it's decomposing, and it becomes a compost that you use to have fertile soil. So wherever you might be resisting right now, when you're listening to this, wherever you're like, oh gosh, things feel so hard right now, or things are just so weird right now in the collective, I invite you to drop in deeper with me today and really think about what are the ways that life is trying to reach you. What have you been unwilling to let go of? What are you not seeing the isness of? So a lot of times in our lives, there's things that are happening and you are uncomfortable or you don't like what's happening, so you push it to the side. It's too ugly, or it sucks, or it's this, or it's that. But Scorpio is macabre in a way. It's like, hey, I want to see that. I'm not afraid of the mystery. I'm not afraid of the darkness. Bring it to me. And I remember one time sitting in an ayahuasca ceremony, and I think I must have been one of those lover lighters, like love and light. And I never really was that, but I thought, oh, I got to stay positive. I got to do this. And I remember sitting in that journey. It was my first foray and walk into darkness, because I remember the medicine, Mother Aya telling me, or grandmother saying, you have to face your own darkness in order to bring it to the light. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, well, you can't even access the truth of who you are unless you're willing to go into the shadows, unless you're willing to reclaim from the past the pieces of you that you've denied, that you've made wrong or bad. And I thought to myself, whoa. And I've been on a reclamation journey ever since. And that was in 20, I think that journey was in 2020. And part of reclaiming who we are is making peace with our past. It's accepting that we all have aspects to us that are related to our trauma, or related to this parts of us that we don't always love and respect, because we thought, oh God, that version of me did something really, I wish I wouldn't have done that. But a great way to reframe that is, the person who I used to be at that level of consciousness that I was at, that was where I was operating. And I can forgive, and I can love that part of me that didn't know better. Or maybe they did. And that's even something you have to accept too. Maybe on some level you did know what you were doing, but you still have to accept it. You still have to reclaim those parts of you, because the energy never dies. They're never going away. So Scorpio is like, hey, come into the darkness with me. You can bring a little flashlight. But can you be brave enough to face the parts of yourself so you could be so mentally healthy, unshakable because you love yourself so much, because you have faced your own shadows and darkness? I believe that is the messaging of Scorpio. Scorpio wants to transform your life, and it's going to do so however it can. And lots of times, transformation comes in the most uncomfortable packages and ways. It comes into your life because you have been avoiding and numbing and distracting, and then all of a sudden you get sick and you can't shake it, or you're in pain, or some big event happens in your life, a divorce, a thing with your children, a thing with, work or whatever it can be, a big election where everybody's terrified, of what's going to happen. And it's a catalyst to wake you up. See, life is always trying to get your attention. It's saying, wake up. Wake up to who you're meant to be. Stop pretending to be something that you're not. Stop disassociating from the truth of who you really are. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. I've done thousands of channeled healing sessions, and I've seen everybody has a story. It doesn't matter how beautiful, rich, this, that, it doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, some of the most beautiful, wealthy people I've ever met have more problems than most people. So don't idolize people on the internet or on social media and think, oh my gosh, they look like they have it all. My friend, no, everybody has their battles. So being here on this planet, being in this scorpionic energy, it's about befriending the mystery. It's about befriending your ability and your power to completely transform your life. And that turns me on. And it turns me on to think about what our desire, when unchecked, how that can create issues for us, because so many people repress their desires and they're like, oh, I'm not allowed to have that. And it could be, I'm not just talking about sexual desire, because Scorpio energy is very sexual, but I'm talking about also, if you have a desire to dance in a certain way, but you feel judged, or oh, I'm too old to dance this way, or I'm too this or too that. It's you stop your vibrancy when you make these rules for yourself, when you create these internal makeshift prisons for yourself. Desire was planted in your body for a reason. We came to this planet, and it's through our desires we grow and evolve. As long as it doesn't, there's some restraint, right? So Scorpio is like, what are your desires? How mentally healthy can you be? I kind of just dove in, and now I'm going to incorporate these cards. I picked them earlier. I'm going to show you the cards. I got the emotional loss card, the financial and material changes card, and the prosperity begins card. So whenever we have to let go of who we've been to welcome who we are, there might be some grief. There might be some discomfort. This is a 5 card. So it's talking about the change. The change is necessary to evolve. And sometimes we're so addicted to holding on to the past and what was that we're not really willing. We're trying to stop the decay. We're trying to, not let it happen, but it's going to happen no matter what. So can you trust the higher plan of your life? What do you need to let go of? What are the patterns and the beliefs that are stopping you from being more at peace and one with yourself? I really want you to think about that, because that emotional loss card is really, it's like tending to your heart. It's like, hey, how's your heart in all of this? Are you managing your heart? Are you taking care of you? And then we get this card, the material and spiritual prosperity. I'm sorry, material and financial changes. Because there is energy with this new moon around money. And there's an energy of things changing around us. It's inevitable. Look what we're in. We're in election time. Everything, the landscape around us is changing. Can you Can you trust that whatever's going to happen, there's a higher plan to this? And I know so many of you are going to go, no, there's not, Dawn. Oh my gosh, how could you say that? I want you to think about where you focus and put your attention is what you're going to see. I also want you to think about God always has a higher plan. And I also want you to think about the divisiveness and how is that really going to serve you? How are you going to manage yourself if who you want and what you want the landscape to look like in the world right now, it doesn't work out in your way that you want it to be, in the way that you would like to control the narrative for yourself so you could feel safe? This is the darkness, my friends. It's the separation. It's the disconnection we feel from other people because they don't think like us. We have to rise above. We have to trust the higher plan. I'm not going to get into it beyond that, but trust the plan. But this is just saying there's going to be lots of changes. And so that's the collective, but in your personal life too, there might be some changes happening. There might be things that are going on that you're like, oh my gosh, there's movement, there's shifts, there's things, happening. So look for that, see what happens. Because you're being moved into a new cycle and the whole planet, like, well, at least the United States is being moved into a new cycle. We're finishing up, a year. We're moving into a new cycle energetically, no matter what. But right now with this card, it's a new beginning. So these next couple of weeks mark a new beginning. And this is a fabulous card for manifesting. This is saying, hey, there's a lot of opportunity to create. Use that soil, that fertile soil that you use, that you got all your compost, and create some new beliefs, think some new thoughts, get excited about what's possible. What do you want to see in your life? If you followed your desire and you're super mentally healthy and you are okay with some of the more intense feelings that you have in your life sometimes because you love yourself and you're managing how you're showing up in your reality, what can you create at this time? It's a really, really, really beautiful energy of creation. So I love that. I am going to share some specific aspects for this new moon. It's just some of the actual themes. Just the fact that, with the transformation and healing, I want you to think about the shadow work. How can you do the shadow work? Because knowing that energy never dies and is never going to go anywhere, how can you reclaim those parts of yourself that you left frozen in time? Whether it was somebody else that made you feel bad about yourself, or you were just creating a narrative because you were experiencing some trauma, how can you reclaim more of who you are so that you can heal more and have more emotional resiliency and feel more empowered and have more self-mastery? I know for me in my journey, I feel so much more at home in myself because I have done a lot of shadow work. I've really come in to accept that, like, there's parts of me that aren't so fabulous sometimes, and okay, and I've done these things in my life and I've made mistakes and but I don't hold myself hostage to all of that. Like I've liberated myself by forgiving myself, by loving myself, by understanding the level of consciousness I was at that time that made those decisions. So I really want you to think about that with this, because there's such a beautiful opportunity to tend to that, to really tend to that. There's a lot of change involved, and I'm actually gonna share some of the aspects because I think that'll help. Because Mars is the former ruler of Scorpio. Pluto's the modern day ruler, so they kind of both in some ways rule, but so Mars is really so Sun and Moon are conjunct Mars and Scorpio. So Mars is playing a big role. Mars is the planet of action and aggression sometimes, and the warrior and all these kind of things, right? So you might feel in such a positive way more motivation and courage and assertiveness to really confront whatever challenges are showing up in your life, to really initiate some new changes. I love that energy for everybody. It's a great time to get more self-empowered and to break some unhealthy habits. You also might feel that that intensity to really focus on your goals. Be mindful of impulsiveness and notice where there might be flared tempers or just energy getting more activated. I mean, look at where we're at right now in the collective. So just really be mindful of all that stuff. Practice a lot of patience and temperance. The new moon is going to be opposite Uranus and Taurus. Okay, here's the money piece, right? So Uranus is always like the unexpected. It's the surprise. It's like, where did that come from? So it could be surprise. It could feel a little disruptive. So it may challenge some of your routines or some relationship stuff, some money plans. So you really need to step into some fluidity and flexibility with this energy. Remain really open right now to see what's going to happen. It's also going to help you move out of being stuck. It's going to help you innovate some things. It's going to help you see, oh God, how could I work better with my money? How could I have better patterns? So there's this really amazing potential for new pathways to open up for you because this, whatever surprise energy or disruptive energy is coming in, it's going to open up for you to see some new ways that things can move forward that is maybe even unconventional. So I love that for you. And so Pluto is going to square the new moon. So this is where we're going to feel that intensity. Um, some deep-rooted issues or unresolved feelings could resurface. And so when you feel maybe some buried fears or old resentments, what could you do to take care of yourself? Let's talk about that. Like, what are some of the things that you could do to take care of yourself? Grounding, getting out in nature, writing a letter and burning it. If you have a lot of old resentment, practicing, some acceptance and forgiveness. If you have a practice like that, meditation, like really think about what are the things that make me feel more grounded when I'm really activated and stirred up. Also, I'd love for you to look at anywhere that you feel tension in power dynamics and where you're trying to like maintain control. It's going to be coming up. It's just part of the landscape of what's happening right now. I mean, you can't make this up with astrology. I swear to God, it's like so aligned to what's happening in the universe right now. Mercury's also in Scorpio, sextile Venus and Virgo. So this opens up really amazing communication in relationships. So you can have those deeper conversations. You can really get to the depths of things. Scorpio, my Mercury's in Scorpio. I love to talk about the shadows. I love to focus on all that kind of stuff. I love I can go really deep with my clients because I'm not afraid of the shadows and I'm not afraid to express myself from my heart. So this is going to be a really, you might even be able to address more sensitive topics, have really beautiful, open-hearted communication. Okay, so I love that. And there's also a little bit of practical energy in this where you might even find that you're able to, once you're having these beautiful, deep relationship talks, you're able to set some really practical milestones, goals, intentions for your guys' relationships. So that is really beautiful. So I think the best way that you can work with this energy is to be prepared that people are going to be stirred up. People are already activated. And your job is to mind you, to take care of you, and to lovingly do that. Be ready for some change. Expect the unexpected. And there's nothing you can do to prepare yourself except try and be flexible and trust that whatever is happening is in your best and highest alignment. And really think about the renewal process, that if you are releasing stuff, even though this is a new moon and you're setting intentions, there is that beautiful, I want you to keep thinking about the soil analogy, like whatever's decaying, the compost, the new beginnings, you're planting those seeds, you're open to manifesting what is. And one of the things that I think would be really supportive of you is to think about what, if you're from a futuring perspective, if you think about 6 months from now, okay, 6 months from now at the Scorpio full moon, what would you like to see if you were more mentally healthy, if you were more, if you had done more shadow work, if you felt that you reclaimed more of yourself, how whole and how amazing that would feel? What about if you tended to your desires? What if you took that cooking class or that dance class or started, showing up more intimately with your partner, honoring your sexual energy? What, I don't know what it is for you, but I want you to start thinking about that from a futuring perspective. Also, your shared resources. Where would you like to see your finances? Even though Taurus, also rules money, Scorpio does too. It's your shared resources. So it's a great time to be thinking about that. Um, but really with the energy of the transformation, thinking about what are you ready to release that no longer serves you? I think that's a great place to start. What are you ready to release? And, where might you still be holding on to old grudges and wounds? I think that's a really helpful place to look. And where might you be afraid to let go? And how could releasing that transform you? I love that. And then I also want you to think about your personal power and what that means to you. I think it's really important to think about how you can reclaim more of who you are so that you can be more in your power. And think about your boundaries. Where could you have stronger boundaries? Because we all know that if you experience a lot of trauma in your early childhood, then there's a really good chance that you have had to learn how to establish boundaries. So where might you honor your mental health more by having stronger boundaries in your life so you can be more in your power? Also understanding what drains your energy, guys. That's why we have boundaries too. Is because it's not just to, it's not just to kind of have, I don't know, I almost think of it as like a force field, right? But it's also because people without boundaries, people just come in and energetically, and if you don't have that line of like, no, I can't do that, or yes, I can, then you're over giving, over serving, and all that kind of stuff. And so you would get energy leaks. So it's really important. And a couple other things, because we're talking about the transformational part, the power part of Scorpio. I want you to think about what I was talking about with the relationship part, and maybe understanding what relationships, how are your relationships shifting right now if you come more into your power, which I also believe is being more vulnerable. How might you really thrive during this time? Because this is about thriving. So that's where it's at. Those are the big themes. That's the big energy. Enjoy the mystery. Enjoy going into the darkness and trusting that you are so divinely held. I used to, like I said, when I started, I used to be afraid of some of the darker things in life. And now, and I embrace that, we all have darkness. We all have parts of ourselves that once once we become aware and really work with that part of ourselves, we can bring that to the light and it can be transmuted and alchemized. And I think that's the beauty of healing. That's the beauty of transformation, is that at any given time, everything can change, because not because so much in the external world something happens, but because you on the inside are really starting to love yourself in new ways and reclaiming all aspects of yourself. And that's when you become really unfuckable with, by the way, because if somebody doesn't like a part of you, you're like, well, okay, I'm not for everybody, because you've already come to accept yourself. But if you're still at war within yourself, if you're still in a battle with yourself, if you're, it's going to cause you separation. You might feel depressed, you might feel anxious, all these different things. And that doesn't lend well to good mental health. So part of this is just really understanding, where might I create a new love story within myself around accepting all of who I am. So I'm going to leave you with that. Have a beautiful Scorpio new moon. Enjoy, and I'll see you soon.